Welcome back to the Choose UCalgary Podcast. My name is Arista and I am your host for Season 9. Today we are joined by Caroline, a Q Center coordinator, and Lila, the Student Union coordinator who oversees the Q Center. They will be sharing everything about the Students Union initiative of the Q Center and the community it has created here on campus, as well as some of their own personal experiences. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, and that the City of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 5 and 6. The City of Calgary has always been my home, but I am only a second-generation Canadian on my dad's side, reminding me of how thankful I am for being able to attend school, live, and work on the lands of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda Nations. Which reminds me how important it is to remember that everything done at the University of Calgary campus, including podcast recordings, starts with these lands. Please keep this in mind as you listen to this podcast. You guys can just start by introducing yourselves and a little bit about your role within the Q Center.
Hi, my name is Caroline. I am one of the Q Center coordinators. The Q Center has two coordinators, myself and Jamie. And as coordinators, we are responsible for, coordinating the space, hiring volunteers, coordinating the volunteers, creating events for the space, making sure everything is running smoothly, and yeah.
And my name is Lila. I'm the coordinator of volunteer services at the Students Union. So part of my role is directly overseeing the Q Center. I help them to do all the wonderful work that they do, provide support in many different ways, and ultimately just hope the best for the Q Center every year.
Yeah, awesome. Just to kind of start us off, what are kind of the goals and primary role of the Q Center within the SU and UCalgary as a whole?
So the primary goal of the Q Center is to provide a safe space for the queer community here on campus. For doing that, we do have a physical space. It's honestly one of my favorite places here on campus to just sit, relax, talk to other people. It's a great way for you to connect with other students who are also part of the queer community. We have an area with couches, lots of very amazing plushies. I love the plushies. We have tables for studying and chatting. We also have a little kitchen area where you can make tea, make coffee. We have a microwave and a kettle. It's providing a safe space for the students here at UCalgary to go to. And we also have events that help us do that, as well as volunteering opportunities and peer support as well.
So the goal of the Q Center, our mandate, is to provide a safe space on campus for queer students and allies. Like Caroline said, we have many different routes and avenues for doing this and engaging with students, but primarily we are just proud to be the space on campus for the queer community. Part of this means that we are an SU initiative, so we are run and led by student leaders like Caroline and like our wonderful crew at the SU, but we are in general just here to support the UCalgary community.
Yeah, for sure. So you kind of mentioned a little bit about what you guys have done to kind of reach the goals of being an inclusive and welcoming space for the kind of queer community and stuff like that. You mentioned programming. Could you go into detail kind of on what type of programming and stuff that you guys do?
Honestly, we do a lot of different events, and every year we try to be more creative with our events and also reach into different parts of the community that sometimes can be overshadowed. We always have discussion nights, which is honestly one of my personal favorite events. They are run by our volunteers. We have many different topics. This year alone, we already had 2 discussion nights, one regarding labels in the queer community, and another one was the BIPOC and queer identities. Discussion nights are a great way for members of the community to come to the space and share their thoughts, feelings, opinions in a safe, welcoming space. It's a way for them to feel heard. It's also a way for them to be a little bit more educated. We do learn a lot when we hear from perspectives from other people. So honestly, I love discussion nights. We have all kinds of events for Halloween. We did this huge Halloween throughout the day event. We had movies, we had Halloween crafts, just providing an alternative for celebrating Halloween in a safer space.
I will say that just in general, our programming is trying to reach students at different levels. So like Caroline's talking about, our events are a great way for students who feel comfortable coming into the space to engage with us. I don't know if some people would count this as a program, but we do. Our social media account is very active, and this is one of the ways we try to reach people who want to engage differently, right? Because the safe space translates from physical to everywhere, right? We also run the Queer Mentoring Program, which is a fantastic way for students to connect to, for undergrad students to connect to older grad students or to profs and faculty on campus about queer experience and to learn from people that way. Yes, we try to run as many different types of things as we can to engage with people.
If I can promote our social media, I'll definitely do that. Our Instagram is at Q Center. It's honestly, our volunteers have been putting a lot of hard work into making those posts. Most of our posts are educational content. So, you can scroll down and just learn more about the community.
Yeah, for sure. So your events and even social media aren't even just for the queer community, but also educating people outside of the queer community to kind of try and make it inclusive for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's amazing. Why do you think this should be really important for future UCalgary students to know about? I know that you mentioned the mentorship program, which could be really valuable. Is there any other reasons you think that future students should really be looking for this resource and interested in this?
So anecdotally, I had a student once come up to me and say, it was actually a very touching moment, but they said that they chose the University of Calgary when they were looking at Canadian schools because we had a Q Center, and I thought it was such a touching thing to happen. But yeah, they full on told me that knowing that we are actively working to create a safe space on campus and campaigning with educational things and trying to support students in different ways, that meant so much to them that they were willing to come here, right? So I think that it extends far beyond students who are already at this campus and tries to support even those who are coming, just to know that we are a good place to be and we have the resources to support you.
I also feel and this is talking from personal experience, I'm an international student. Back where I am from, I wasn't able to fully express my identity as a queer person, and coming here, finding the Q Center, it was a way for me to express that and to find out, explore more about myself, and for me to be able to do that in a safe environment with people who are there to support me, with a community who's there to support me, that was so special to me. And I think it's one of the most special things about the Q Center is the fact that we provide community to students who are in need of that community.
Yeah, for sure. You also mentioned a space that's provided for the Q Center. Where is the space located on campus?
So we're located in McEwen Student Center, or MAC Hall, as most people call it. We're in room 210, so I usually tell people to go near the Mr. Pretzel. And you see us back there, next to the link to the science buildings.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You also mentioned the Queer Mentoring Program. Could you go into more detail about that? And you said that students could connect with professors or stuff like that are part of this queer community to kind of get mentoring. How early can students get involved in that, and just go into a little bit more detail on that?
Yeah, so we run this program annually, so it's only once per year. We typically send out advertisements and get people to sign up from September to November, and then we do all the matching and pair people going into the winter semester. Yeah, it's a great opportunity for people, like I said before, to connect to people that they don't normally speak to and to hear that different lived experience and hopefully add some understanding to their lives.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So students can really, coming into the university, could really get involved in their first year, through the emails and stuff that you send out and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But also add volunteering as well. The SU stands for Student Union, and within the Student Union we have the VS, the Volunteer Services. Currently we have 5 programs that hire for volunteers. One of those programs is the Q Center. All of our volunteers are undergraduate students, and it's a great way for you to be more involved and be more active in the community, and it's a great way for you to gain first-hand experience of what it is to work in an office, work in a professional environment. And it's honestly a great way as well to connect with more people, get to know more people, make more friends.
Want to read more about UCalgary? Check out our Future Students blog, where you can find articles from admissions pathways, financial support, exploring Calgary, student life, all the way to UCalgary's programs and spaces. Check it out through the link in our show notes. So we mentioned the Students' Union a couple of times, and I know that this is a student union initiative. What does that kind of mean in terms of like how students can get involved and like what it entails for the Q Center?
Yeah, so the Students' Union provides many different opportunities for students to get involved on campus. And really our goal is to make sure that students walk out of their degree not only with an education, but also with meaningful experience and a great memory of their time here, right? So one of the ways that we do that is through volunteer services, which like Caroline was saying before, Q Center is one of our volunteer programs. So this is an excellent opportunity for students to get job opportunities, reference letters written for them. I know that's a huge point, but also just generally making friends, finding community with people who relate to them and who are similarly engaged. Our programs aren't restricted to any year of study. First year students can walk in and volunteer with us, and we're happy to have them. What we try to do is, through the SU in general and through VS, is just engage students in ways that matter to them.
And obviously, there's also a path for you to grow inside the student union as well. I walked in my first year as a volunteer of the Q Center, and then this year I have been hired as a coordinator. So very, very happy about that. And yeah, it's a great way for you to get like firsthand experience of what it is like to work in a more professional environment. So
yeah, awesome. So yeah, really with Students' Union, it really opens up a lot of opportunities for students to volunteer and then even build off of that and become like coordinators or other roles and stuff like that.
Yeah, we have tons of different opportunities within the SU. So VS, we have coordinators, but just across it in general, we try to get students involved as much as we can.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, before getting involved as coordinators, you said you both started off as like volunteers and stuff like that in the Q Center. How did you guys kind of find out about the Q Center and start getting involved?
I'm trying to remember. I remember I applied. This is a funny story. I applied. I submitted my application as a volunteer during the Pride Parade. It was my first time being at a Pride Parade, and it was like I was waiting, and then it was like looking for opportunities to volunteer and stuff like that. And I found out about the Q Center through the student union's website, and I was like, oh my god, this is perfect. It's the perfect moment too. So that's how I submitted my application. In the student union's website, we do have like the Q Center tab where you can submit your application. Other ways that we reach out to students is through social media. Obviously, social media is a huge part of how we communicate with the world. So it's also a huge part of how we communicate with our students or with our community. But we also do have like kind of like a welcome fair at the beginning of the year. It's located in Mac Hall, and VS is always there representing all the programs. So if you're curious about the programs and not only the Q Center, but also volunteer services programs, you can stop, chat, ask some questions, hear more about like the opportunities, how it works, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I kind of came to the Q Center as a volunteer in my third year of university. I hadn't even heard of it before. And then I stumbled just through Mac Hall. I just saw it back there, and I knew I wanted to get involved. It just looked like such a cool space to be in. I was also pretty early in my queer journey, so I was excited to explore that more. Yeah, so it's just been a really meaningful place for me.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned that you benefited from the Q Center even in your third year and finding it at that point. How have maybe you also benefited or even seen others really benefit from the Q Center?
I see people benefit from the Q Center every single day. I think that as a queer community, sometimes it can be hard and scary to reach out and try to find like-minded people or try to find support systems. And knowing that there's a dedicated space to helping you feel more supported and to finding people, I think just even knowing that that's there support students. I've seen students come up to our door and not be able to enter, but just knowing it's there feels supportive. I've even talked to staff at the University of Calgary who have said that they didn't come while they were a student because they didn't feel like they were ready to, but now that they work here, they go there, have lunch all the time. So I think it's just nice to see that just having a dedicated space really does support you, even if you're just browsing our social media or talking to people about it, it does support.
Yeah, I also feel like in my personal experience, it helped me become more confident in who I am, provided me with a safe way of exploring myself, asking questions to other people, connecting with other people, being like, hey, what do you think about this? Or like, hey, you know, I've been having these thoughts lately, like, let's talk about this and stuff like that. So it's honestly a great way for students to grow, have personal growth and personal development.
And actually, for allies too. So when I volunteered at the Q, I used to have people come in all the time and just say, "Hey, I don't know what this word means. Can you explain it?" And I would explain it to them, and they would be like, "That's great, thank you." And that would be the whole interaction.
Yeah.
But knowing that people are coming in to learn, and because it is a safe space to ask questions and to get resources that you might be looking for, that really does support just the general campus climate too, to be more accepting and welcoming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I guess also for listeners on the topic of just like educating and stuff like that, what does queer mean? And even like I know there's a couple different ways of phrasing it, but like the LGBTQ2+ community, I know there's a lot of variations of how that's said, and any other like kind of terms that kind of come up regularly within the Q Center and that community.
So queer is actually an umbrella term. Well, queer actually used to be like a slur. But the queer community around the 1980s, 1990s started to like regain that term for themselves. And honestly, it's a term that I personally prefer using just because it's an umbrella. So like if you think of an umbrella, it like involves kind of like everything. The acronym that we use here in Canada and that we try to use more officially is Choose LGBTQIA+. The Choose stands for Two Spirit. L stands for lesbian, G for gay, B for bisexual, T for the transgender community. Q can be either for queer or questioning or like queer identities in general. I stands for intersex, A for asexual, and the plus stands for like, every other identity.
Yeah, at Q though, we really do just go with what you feel, right?
Yeah.
So if to you queer means something different than what we've just said, or if the acronym itself means something different than what we've just said, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
The whole experience of it is very personal and very to each their own. So we hope to provide general information like Caroline just did and answer questions for people that come in all the time, but ultimately it's up to you how you feel about it.
Yeah, for sure. So it's really meeting people where they're kind of at.
Yeah.
Their journey.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And just being respectful towards people's personal preferences. So if they prefer to use that label, then they prefer to use that label, and that's it. They don't have to explain it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Did you guys have anything you wanted to add about the Q Center or even about yourselves or about UCalgary as a whole?
I think as an international student, it was a really hard decision for me to make which university I would go to, even which country I would go to, because I was kind of like confused about it. But I'm very, very happy with my decision. It's been like tough being away from home, but I think that like the community that I was able to find here at UCalgary with the Q Center, with the SU, just with like people in general, it's been really, really amazing and really helpful in like making my journey easier and happier. So yeah, I really love it.
As someone who was a student at the University of Calgary, I can honestly look back and say that one of my favorite parts was my engagement with the Q Center. I think that there's just so much to be said for finding community and finding support. And no matter how you end up here, we're happy to have you. So
yes,
please come by. Please come check us out on Instagram. You can email us if you don't feel comfortable coming in person. And yeah, we're just excited to see that more students might be choosing UCalgary for the services and supports that we have.
Thank you guys so much for coming in. Thank you for listening to this episode of Season 9 of the Choose UCalgary podcast. Remember to follow us on Instagram at choose.ucalgary and Facebook at UCalgaryFS to stay up to date on all things UCalgary for future students. DM if you have any questions and stay tuned for the next episode.